They found Marcus Chen's body in the East River on a Tuesday morning. His laptop was missing, his phone wiped clean. But tucked inside his waterproof briefcase was a single USB drive with 3 words written in permanent marker. "They're watching you." Marcus wasn't suicidal. He wasn't reckless. He was a journalist. And 3 weeks before he died, he told his editors something that would change everything. "I found the story that ends careers. Maybe mine, maybe yours. Definitely theirs." This is the lore of journalists, where truth isn't just dangerous, it's lethal. 6 months earlier, Marcus Chen was nobody special, mid-30s, investigative reporter for the Metropolitan Herald, a dying newspaper in a city that had stopped caring about print. He covered city council meetings, zoning disputes, the kind of stories that made people skip to the sports section. But Marcus had a problem. He couldn't let things go. While other reporters filed their 800-word summaries and went home, Marcus stayed late, cross-referencing, digging, looking for the story beneath the story. His editor, Diane Reeves, called it obsession. Marcus called it responsibility. "If we don't hold them accountable," he'd say, "who will?" Diane would sigh, light another cigarette. "Marcus, accountability doesn't pay the bills, clicks do." But Marcus wasn't chasing clicks. He was chasing something darker. It started with an email, no name, encrypted server, sent at 2:47 a.m. on a Sunday. Subject, "You're looking in the wrong place." The body of the email had no text, just a PDF. Marcus opened it. His hands stopped moving. It was a leaked internal memo from Titan Corp Industries, one of the largest pharmaceutical conglomerates in the world. Headquarters right here in the city. The memo was addressed to the company's legal team. Subject line, "Liability Mitigation, Project Clearwater." Marcus read it 3 times. Then he stood up, walked to his window, stared at the Titan Corp building across the skyline. 50 stories of glass and steel, glowing like a monument. He whispered to himself, They knew the whole time." Marcus brought the memo to Diane the next morning. She read it in silence. Her face went pale. "Marcus, do you understand what this is?" He nodded. "Project Clearwater, Titan Corp's experimental water purification program for underserved communities in the Midwest." Diane leaned back. "They've been running that program for 5 years. Government-backed, humanitarian awards. The CEO got a medal from the president." Marcus tapped the document. "And according to this, they've known for 3 years that their filtration system was releasing a neurotoxin into the water supply. They buried the lab results, paid off inspectors, and when people started getting sick," Diane interrupted, "they blamed it on pre-existing conditions and poverty." Silence. Then Diane looked at him, really looked at him. "Marcus, if this is real, this isn't a story, this is a war. Titan Corp has lawyers that could bury us in litigation for a decade. We don't have the resources to fight this." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Then we find someone who does." Diane closed the folder. "Or we find our names in the river next to yours." He didn't laugh, because somewhere, deep down, Marcus Chen already knew. This story was going to cost him everything. Marcus's first break came from a woman who refused to give her real name. She called herself Dr. Hollow. They met in a parking garage at midnight. She wore a surgical mask and sunglasses even though it was dark. "I was a contractor for Titan Corp," she said. "Environmental toxicology. I ran the tests on the Clearwater filtration units." Marcus pulled out a recorder. She shook her head. "No recordings, no names. I tell you what I know. You verify it yourself. If you use my name, I'm dead." "Dead?" She laughed bitterly, hollow. "You think Titan Corp got to where they are by playing fair? 3 of my colleagues are gone. 1 retired early. 1 had a car accident. 1 just disappeared." Marcus felt his chest tighten. "What did you find?" Dr. Hollow handed him a thumb drive. "Trace amounts of compound ZK-47, a byproduct of their purification process. It's a neurotoxin, slow-acting. At low doses, it causes memory loss, tremors, aggression. At high doses," she trailed off. "The people in those communities have been drinking it for 3 years. Marcus stared at the drive. Why didn't you go public? She looked at him like he was a child. Because I want to live. And then she was gone. Marcus spent the next 2 weeks doing what journalists do best. He disappeared into the story. His apartment became a war room. Documents pinned to every wall. Maps of affected towns. Medical records. Death certificates. Diane texted him, "Marcus, you haven't filed anything in 10 days. Where are you?" He didn't respond because he'd found something, a pattern. In every town where Titan Corp installed their clear water systems, hospital admissions for neurological disorders spiked within 18 months. Dementia diagnoses in people under 40, seizures in children, aggressive behavioral incidents that led to arrests, divorces, suicides. And in every case, local officials had been paid consulting fees by Titan Corp. Thousands of dollars, tens of thousands. Marcus cross-referenced bank records, shell companies, and campaign donations. The deeper he dug, the clearer it became. This wasn't negligence. This was a cover-up, and it went all the way to the top. Marcus didn't notice the car following him at first. Black sedan, tinted windows, 3 cars back. But after the 4th turn, he realized it was staying with him. His heart started to race. He took a sudden left. The sedan followed, another turn, still there. Marcus's hands were sweating on the wheel. He pulled into a 24-hour gas station. Bright lights, security cameras. The sedan slowed, then drove past. Marcus sat in his car, breathing hard. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. Silence. Then a voice. Calm. Male. No accent. Marcus Chen, investigative reporter, lives alone. No family in the city. Drinks black coffee. Takes the same route home every night. Marcus's blood went cold. Who is this? Someone who wants to help you make a smart decision. What decision? The one where you let this story go and keep breathing. Click. The line went dead. Marcus sat in that gas station parking lot for 20 minutes. Then he drove to Diane's house. Diane poured him a drink. They threatened you. It wasn't a question. Marcus nodded. They knew where I lived, my routine, everything. Diane sat down heavily. Then we kill the story. Marcus's head snapped up. What? Marcus, listen to me. You have no protection, no legal team, no security. If they're willing to follow you, they're willing to do worse. Diane, people are dying. And you'll be next. Her voice cracked. Silence. Then Diane spoke softer. I've been in this business for 30 years. I've seen good journalists lose everything chasing stories like this. Some lost their jobs. Some lost their families. Some... She didn't finish. Marcus stared at the floor. So we just let them win? Diane closed her eyes. We survive. Marcus stood up. I didn't become a journalist to survive, Diane. I became one to tell the truth. And what good is the truth if you're dead? He looked at her. What good is living if I spend the rest of my life knowing I could have stopped this? He walked to the door. Diane called after him. Marcus. Please. He paused. If anything happens to me, publish it anyway. And he left. 2 days later, Marcus got a call. A real name this time. Richard Tomlinson, former VP of operations at Titan Corp. They met at a coffee shop in Brooklyn. Richard looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. I need immunity, he said. From prosecution, from civil suits, everything. Marcus leaned forward. I'm a journalist, not a lawyer. Then get me one. Because if I talk, I'm ruined. But if I don't... Richard's hands were shaking. I can't live with it anymore. Marcus pulled out his recorder. Tell me everything. Richard took a breath. We knew about the contamination 16 months into the Clearwater rollout. Internal tests flagged it. I brought it to the board. And they did a cost-benefit analysis, pulling the units, redesigning them, halting the program. It would have cost $800 million and destroyed our reputation. So they did nothing. Richard's eyes filled with tears. Worse, they actively suppressed it, paid off inspectors, buried medical studies, threatened researchers, and when journalists started asking questions, he stopped. Marcus felt his stomach drop. What did they do? Richard looked him dead in the eye. They made them go away. Silence. Then Marcus asked the question he was afraid to ask. How many journalists? 3 that I know of, maybe more. Marcus's hands went numb. Richard slid a folder across the table. This is everything. Board meeting minutes, emails, financial records. It's enough to destroy them. Marcus opened the folder. His heart was pounding. Why now? Why are you doing this? Richard's voice broke. Because my daughter lives in one of those towns. Marcus wrote for 3 days straight, 5,000 words, every fact checked, every source verified. He titled it, Poisoned Promises, How Titan Corp Knowingly Contaminated Drinking Water and Covered It Up. Diane read it twice. This is Pulitzer-level work, Marcus. He didn't smile. Will you run it? She hesitated. If we do this, we're at war. I know. Diane looked at the screen. Then she reached over and hit publish. The article went live at 6 a.m. on a Wednesday. By 9 a.m., it had 200,000 views. By noon, it was trending on every platform. By 3 p.m., Titan Corp's stock had dropped 18%. By 5 p.m., the FBI announced an investigation. And by 8 p.m., Marcus Chen was missing. Diane went to Marcus's apartment when he didn't answer his phone. The door was unlocked. Inside, everything looked normal. His laptop was still open. Coffee still warm on the desk. But Marcus was gone. No signs of struggle, no forced entry, just absence. Diane called the police. They took a report. Maybe he needed some air. High-stress situation. People disappear for a few days sometimes. But Diane knew. This wasn't a breakdown. This was something else. She found his notebook on the desk. The last entry, written in Marcus's handwriting. If you're reading this, it means they got to me. Publish everything. Don't stop. The truth is the only thing that matters. Her hands were shaking. She called Richard Tomlinson. No answer. She called Dr. Hollow. Number disconnected, and then her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. The same calm voice Marcus had heard. Ms. Reeves, we're impressed by your paper's commitment to journalism, but we'd hate to see any more tragic accidents. Where is Marcus? That depends entirely on you. Click. They found Marcus Chen's body 3 days later. The official report said drowning. No signs of foul play. The medical examiner ruled it a suicide. High-stress job, recent public controversy, history of obsessive behavior. Diane read the report and wanted to scream. Because she knew. Everyone knew. But knowing and proving are two different things. Marcus's funeral was small, a few colleagues, some college friends. Diane gave the eulogy. She talked about his integrity, his courage, his refusal to look away. And when she finished, she said something that made the room go silent. Marcus didn't kill himself, and we all know it. But the people who did this are counting on us being too afraid to say it out loud. She looked at the crowd. So, I'm saying it. Marcus Chen was murdered for telling the truth. And if we let his death mean nothing, then we're complicit in the silence. After the funeral, a woman approached Diane, mid-20s, nervous eyes. I'm a reporter for the New York Journal. I want to continue Marcus's investigation. Diane looked at her. Do you understand what that means? The woman nodded. I do. Diane handed her a USB drive. Then don't waste his sacrifice. 6 months after Marcus's death, the dominoes finally fell. The FBI investigation led to criminal charges. Titan Corp's CEO was arrested. 7 executives indicted. The Clearwater program was shut down. Affected communities received a $4.2 billion settlement. Marcus's article won a posthumous Pulitzer Prize. But Marcus wasn't there to see it. And that's the lore of journalism. The truth doesn't always set you free. Sometimes it gets you killed. But here's what they don't tell you. Journalists like Marcus don't do this work because it's safe. They do it because someone has to. Because power without accountability is tyranny. Because silence in the face of injustice is complicity. And because the truth, no matter how dangerous, is the only thing standing between civilization and chaos. Marcus Chen knew the risks. He knew what it would cost, and he did it anyway. Not because he was fearless, but because he understood something most people don't. Some stories are worth dying for, because they keep others from having to. Today, there's a new journalist sitting at Marcus's old desk. Her name doesn't matter. What matters is this. She just received an encrypted email. Subject line, "They're still watching." She opens it. Inside is a document, a memo from a different corporation, a different cover-up, a different chance to expose the truth. She stares at the screen, her hand hovers over the keyboard, and then she starts typing, because that's the lore of journalists. The work never ends, the danger never stops, but neither does the truth. And as long as there are people willing to chase it, no matter the cost, power will never sleep easy. To every journalist who refused to stay silent, thank you. If this story stayed with you, subscribe to Stories and Myths About Work, because every profession has a myth and a lore you only learn the hard way.